bleach was overrated. The kid starts crying.
You lied, Daddy, you lied.
What's our show, Justin?
What is our show? It's Basement Discourse. Welcome. That was the longest introduction I think we've ever done
Brady
to this
brought
fucking
up
show.
porn and had to happen.
And it was off track from there.
Fair.
Yeah, it's all downhill, all the way down to a trussy. So we got Brady over there. We've got Jace, and we've got myself on the Basement Discourse today, and we're going to be talking about the difficulty of just life.
Oh, no one needs to be that sad.
I've never had difficulty in life. My life has been streamlined.
So that means you're playing it on easy, my friend. But some people like to play their games on a little bit harder than that.
Your face screams zero trauma.
Yeah, no. I had a great life.
we actually, truly, we haven't had a bad life.
No, fuck no.
Like,
I've had a fucking screamer. Like I didn't even have to finish high school.
You grew up with
Still
like
ended up.
the greats like Army of Darkness and Evil Dead. And,
dude,
you
my
know.
dad got me into Army of Darkness.
Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. That's the only time I ever saw it was at your place. So just saying.
Living the dream.
That's right.
I was actually a big Michael Jackson fan as a kid.
Bro, I was too. I still am. I still dig his music.
Yeah,
You
I'm sort of hitting
fucking
this.
you would, Justin.
Why? Because he's white.
I did watch his did it end up his last concert thing? I remember being a kid and watching that. That was pretty fucking badass.
You
Man
remember
could
being a kid?
dance.
Oh, okay. I feel like it wasn't that long ago that he passed. Like, you know.
You're older than me.
I know.
But also his last concert I think was like long before his. It was like his retirement concert. I remember watching that on TV.
Ah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just blurs in adulthood.
Doesn't it? It's fucking shit. And that's why sometimes I find I don't have enough time to play a game on hard. So I just skip and play it on easy. Segue back to what the fuck we're talking about. Yeah. I try. So
Life on hard is just owning dogs indoors.
yeah,
I
dogs,
fucking
doors,
reckon I
crying
swear to
babies. Jeez, you guys need a nerd shack. That's what you'll need. I'm just really cold. That's all.
They got rid of my nerd shack.
Damn,
I had one and they tore it down.
that's stupid. That's very stupid. You should.
What
never do
Justin's saying is everybody needs a creepy backyard shed where they hide all their little toys.
that. Absolutely, and occasional bodies. But if you got enough concrete, that's fine. So we're talking about difficulty, and I don't just mean like how do you play your game? Do you play it on easy, medium, or hard? I'm talking about like diverse difficulties. So what sort of games have you guys played in the past where difficulty hasn't just been that a boss gets more health or that there's more enemies? How has it been more diverse? Which are the best ones? Which are the shittest ones out there? That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about difficulty. I don't know if that's what you guys were thinking about.
Yeah,
this topic, but
yeah.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
like.
Well, Jace is the gamer one, so I think he can probably
first,
provide.
First one would be like, okay, how do you guys play your games? Like, if it's a regular game and you just want to get it done, do you play it on easy? Do you guys play it on hard?
So my first playthrough always normal.
Yeah,
the way
that's what
I see it
thinking.
is
That's how they
the
designed it,
developer
right?
intended. Exactly.
Yeah. There's
So-
easy for people who want to get through it or enjoy the story. There's hard for people who want to challenge, and then there's the way that they designed it. And I feel like that's probably always in that normal like state of mind. And that can be said about D&D as well. So everything inside of the player's handbook, inside of the monster manual, all of that stuff, it's all statted out and sort of based around basically 4 players playing against certain CR level creatures, and you create encounters that way. It's when you bring in homebrew or when you bring in extra players and then you bring in all these other variables, that's when it gets a bit fucking difficult to sort of map out. And that's where your difficulty will change inside of the D&D world as well. So there is sort of a little bit of a tie into tabletop, not much. That's about as stretchy as I'm going to get with that. So
That's fair. It does get a little bit harder with tabletop. I play most games on normal. However, I don't know if this is a real category, so maybe Jace can help me out. I do put games into like different categories before I decide that difficulty. So if it's sort of a cinematic story-based game and I really don't care that much about the gameplay, like the gameplay isn't like designed for gamers, like people who want to have that challenging element, then I will just play it a little bit easier. But the vast majority, I just hit normal.
Do you
Unless
mean
it's
something like Heavy Rain or something, like where it's like just sort of tap X to save your life and move on, sort of thing?
Yeah, more like so like it's a bizarre, so like Horizon games. So I've just started the second one today. That is a story heavy game. Like there is gameplay elements, but honestly most people could not have a difficult time. You do have to gather things to craft items to actually create weapons, but it's not that hard. Shit's everywhere. It's not a difficult thing to do. The gameplay isn't meant to be monstrously difficult.
So you're playing that on easy though?
I'm playing the sequel on normal because I got it and I actually have 2 weeks off. So, but
Nice.
I had planned on playing it on easy because it's a story game. It's a cinematic game. I didn't really care about playing this one to play it as a game so much as just find out what the fuck happens. But most games I will just flat play normal because, like you guys said, I feel like that's how it was intended. Unless there's just a particularly cool element about a particular game that I want to see. If I can achieve it on a harder mode, which is not often. and then there's challenge runs, which are different.
What are your thoughts on that, Doggo?
Balin? Is that Balin?
Balin, yeah.
Balin, if you could just speak into the microphone, let us know how do you like to play your
have
games?
you seen the game Stray?
Yeah.
Does it get you angry?
No,
Saw a great mod for that game already for fucking Garfield. Have y'all seen that?
Yeah, I've seen that.
So good. Love that shit. So difficulties on games. I'm gonna say that I'm the same. Normal is the only way to really go if you're like not aware of it. I think probably for you guys, if you like I don't even know if Final Fantasy has a difficulty, but for you guys, you probably could chuck it on hard and be like, yeah, this is fine because you probably know it.
Sometimes, like when you new game plus it, it'll allow some stuff, but it's not difficulty stuff. It's like, how do you can like play without a heads up display or something like that.
Right. Okay.
Those sort of elements. Like you can't see how much health the monsters have instead.
Yeah.
And then you have challenge runs that players create themselves, which is another difficulty thing we could talk about since Jace has been absolutely killing some fun. By the way, your beanie, holy shit, that's sick.
Oh yeah.
I didn't see it.
It's because you have old man vision. But
wow.
But yeah, challenge runs. So that's something that I've sort of been a bit new on. After finishing Dark Souls, I'd been watching other YouTubers that do challenge runs and be like, holy shit, these look so cool. But I'm shit at games. As much as I play them a lot, I am not that great. So I'm like, gotta pace myself. And so I've decided, based on the opinion of Kendall, who we've had on the show before, I decided to do dagger only because he said that he couldn't get through Dark Souls 3 with only a dagger. I'm like, I don't even need to just follow that rule. So I went dagger only, no shields, and I also cannot wear armor. So I can only wear clothing or no clothing. That's it.
Jesus.
I'm currently about 2/3 of the way through Dark Souls 3 now. I just killed a guy called Yorm that you guys wouldn't know about.
No.
But he hits like a Mack truck. There is one attack that he does. If he hits me with it, I'm dead immediately. And he has more health than any boss in that game whatsoever, bar none, not even close.
Jesus.
Like, it took me 9 minutes of constant fighting to beat him.
That's ridiculous.
That's a pretty
minutes.
long fight in like a Souls game because like you are playing hard.
Yeah.
Like you're not just like, I'll just run into the corner and heal up. Like Souls games don't play that way. Like you're
boys,
that's a hard
boys
fight.
over there just sweating, sweating hard. Oh, that would have sucked.
So
it was rough. Yeah.
So
outside of challenge runs,
so the difficulty for the Souls games are all the same, right? You can new game plus it, and then it gets a little bit harder because everything's got more health. Is that right?
Pretty much, yeah. So
kind of that's probably a good example to me in theory of kind of a shit way to like make things difficult.
I sort of agree.
I get it though. There is the appeal of getting stronger by new game plussing, and you get higher like more power, but everything else has just got more health. Then the more power just sort of
So I just want to with Souls. I don't do Dark Souls do the same thing Elden Ring did with multiple endings and story stuff, like the way you play will get. Okay, so I want to chime in with that based on what you were saying, Justin.
Right.
If you are playing the Souls game and you want to know the multiple endings,
it's a good incentive.
Playing the identical game again and again and again with no difficulty curve, with new gaming with all your gear, and just literally mindlessly walking through, especially those first few challenges to the middle ground of the game, would suck. So upping everything by just giving it more health, yes, it's not an epic way to do it, but at least you're not doing the same thing to the exact same difficulty level.
Yeah, and I suppose there's a bit more of a reward for it. So I guess that's probably just a step up for me to be like, there's a little bit more reward and you get a second ending. So I guess if you're going to get the ending anyway, you might as well be playing it with the character you know and love. But that said, I don't know, the builds, you could go a total different build next time as well.
That's exactly what I did. I've always been, ever since Elden Ring, I've been like a katana bitch. And going all daggers it's been wild. It's a completely different play style.
Yeah.
So that's a huge change.
I'm trying to think of any that are like the prime example of the worst type of level.
I've got one.
Like awesome, good
one.
shit. Over to you.
Mass Effect fucking 3.
Yep.
Fuck me. So I'm playing through the entire trilogy on Insanity difficulty, which is the absolute highest. There's I think there's just the story for Mass Effect 3, which is basically designed for the combat to be a cakewalk. And then after that, we've got like easy, blah, blah, blah. And it goes up to hard. Then there's like hardcore, and then there's Insanity, which is the absolute top. I'm playing through on that. I'm on Mass Effect 3, and I'm reaching a point where there's sort of like timed fights. Like they don't actually have a literal timer, but you've got to kill or, beat the like boss thing in a quick enough time before you get fucking killed. And because they just become bigger and bigger bullet sponges, I'm nearly max level at the moment, so I can't do anything more. My guns are all fucking maxed out and they do shit tons of damage, but they've just got so much health. Because they didn't design the game to be played at Insanity, all they did was, we'll bump some sliders up. It just becomes like you can tell how much they haven't put thought into it. And like, to sort of give a good example of it, there is one fight in one of the DLC missions where basically there's only 2 people in your party. There's normally 3. One of them gets caught in a like barrier field thing, like a shield generator, and they can't do anything. And you've got to run around the room and break all the pillars on the shield generator to drop them out. But they've got these super hard enemies chasing you everywhere. And you've just constantly got to keep fucking shooting the pricks. And they just take so many hits. And they can nearly kill you in one shot. And you're like, they have not thought at all about how this fight should go at a higher difficulty.
Yeah.
And instead of being like tactical, like you've got to approach it and be really smart and strategic, it's more like you've just got to run from point to point and cower like a little girl and then just like fucking roll away wherever you can and shit like that. It's not
actually enjoyable by that point. Yeah. No. It's just,
But that's not tactics. That's just, you do what you can, you fuck off for a bit. That's,
it just doesn't sound
I can
like
see
fun.
why that example's in your head.
No, and literally at this point, the only reason I'm doing it is to say that I did it.
Yeah.
Oh, and you get an achievement for doing the entire series on Insanity.
Woo, achievement.
So, that'll sit in my Steam profile, and then, other dudes will look at my profile and be like, wow, that guy's fucking cool, man.
And that's it.
Yeah,
that's the only reason we do anything, though.
Yeah. And that was Mass Effect. Very clean cut. No one even noticed.
Yeah. Won't notice that there was a cut at all.
I should have changed shirts or just gone shirtless.
Yes.
Oh, Jesus. So, Brady, anything in the...
Yeah. I have two very typical weeb things you'll sort of tear into, but they're actually interesting examples of difficulty scaling. So, first of all, though, it comes from a weeb thing, which is Kingdom Hearts, but I'm not talking about it directly for that game. Optional bosses and difficulty scaling with optional bosses, even on like normal, becoming pretty fucking insane. How do you guys feel about that? I think that's something different from the normal difficulty. So it becomes so difficult, way harder than like even like when you get those optional bosses that either after or you can go to them before the end of the game, but they are so much harder than like everything else in the game. So Kingdom Hearts comes to mind because you fight Sephiroth, who should be and is incredibly difficult. He has many moves that will just one-shot you no matter, you could have your character maxed out with everything and you could still be one-shot if you get hit. So you have to kind of just play and know his patterns and get ready to move. There are a couple that reduce you to 1 HP only because you have an ability if you're far enough through the game that leaves you on 1 HP after mass damage. And you have to instantly heal because he's coming at you with a sword in 5 seconds. Like, how do you guys feel about that sort of difficulty? Because that's outside of the normal.
I'm fine with that, to be honest. I'm fine with it because
as long as you
not the
slap
main story and it doesn't.
Bitch.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. As long as it's optional.
So the optional one was
just a challenge. So it's just like Jace's, dagger only thing. It's your choice to do it or not. I'm sure there's some great reward, but it comes with the risk. So
in that particular example, it was actually a very shitty reward. It was just a keychain. So you
skins, skins.
Basically, it was a skin. It did have ability. Like the whole Kingdom Hearts collect the Keyblades things are skins. They come with different strengths and weaknesses and abilities with each Keyblade, but it's essentially a skin. Because
every time you talk about Kingdom Hearts, you're really just selling it on me. It's like, oh, one step closer to purchasing that.
I think 4 will be aimed at pulling in our age group because there's going to be a lot less Disney shit from the looks of it, but we'll see. The other one I want to talk about from difficulty is when they do it in a way that is just too starkly obvious that that's what they've done. So Pokemon have played with this for years. So the first game was noticeably harder than the rest that hold your hand through it. The level scaling is literally like you start in area 1. Everything you encounter is level 1 to 5. The first major boss has level 8. Like, do you feel that is just way too many steps too far in the difficulty? Because then if you go back to those areas, you're a god. Do you prefer games with like that open world plan where everything scales with you?
I think that'd be ideal, but back in the day when I was playing World of Warcraft, which is probably the only example I can think of, which is exactly the same, was areas were level specific. So you would go to those areas knowing that, like, if you weren't leveled up enough, you get your ass kicked, sort of thing. So I guess it depends on the game in that respect, because you could know, like, so at level 28, I could go to the level 32 area, but it's gonna be rough. But I know that it's there. So I kind of actually don't mind it if you can identify those areas enough that you know the difficulty, because then it's basically like playing a game on easy, medium, and hard anyway. I could choose to go as a level 28 to a level 40 area. It's going to be hard or insane difficulty, but it's there if I wanted it.
So it definitely matters on whether you want to, what the game is, I guess. Is it a game where you want to do those difficulty curves, or like I was saying with the Horizon example, more of a story-based cinematic game where you just want to get through it? Because like Pokemon played this thing in the newest games with the wild area where you could encounter shit of any level. There's a lot of stuff there that was ready for you, stuff that was way higher. What did annoy me is they level locked, which they've always done this. You couldn't catch things that were too high a level. You could fight them. And some stuff you would try and fight and it would say your Pokemon's shaking in fear and it would just fucking knock you out. And I was like, awesome.
Give me a chance, man. Give me a chance.
Yeah. It's like, I think it was like it was their way of being like, you can fight it if you want. Because now that they have Pokemon in the overworld, it's not just random encounter as you walk around. You have to see them and walk at them. You could, see something that you'd be like, pretty sure that gigantic monster looking thing is going to be high level as opposed to that pigeon. Like, you could still make a bit of a call. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if anyone's worked it out properly, but I don't think that was the good way to fix it, to be honest.
So I'm in two minds about it, right? So first and foremost, it does kind of suck when you go back to an area and you just poo all over everything. However, it would also feel kind of shit. So let's just use Elden Ring for an example, right? Let's just say everything around Stormvale Castle scaled with you. So you're sitting there, you're fucking chopping away at all those knights and shit. You go off, you fuck up Radahn, come back, you're a god, you know, you've got a nice pointy hat and all that, and all of a sudden they are just as difficult as when you left. It's like, okay,
You
so
wouldn't
have
feel
I
like you're
actually
progressing.
Exactly, so you like
Yeah.
that progression.
Yep.
However, there are games that have unique ways of scaling difficulty. Now, I can't remember specifics, but both Half-Life and Max Payne had their own ways of scaling difficulty. With Half-Life, the AI would actually learn from you. And so based on how you acted in combat environments, they were more likely to react in a counter opposite fashion. So if you always stayed behind cover, they would be more likely to throw grenades. If
Yeah,
you
nice.
rushed them, then they would be more likely to take cover. Things like that.
That's
It
clever.
wasn't,
Wow, that's pretty cool.
That's
Like,
pretty cool for
did
its
it end
time,
up
too.
working well, or was it pretty
yes,
jank?
it was hugely praised when the game came out in 1998.
That's
Damn.
ridiculous for its time. That's insane.
Even these days, there's not AI that advanced, or
Yeah.
like, people aren't using AI that intelligently in a lot of games.
So what you just described, though, I'll just cut you off right in the middle
go
of what
for
you
it.
were going with. Similar to AI for car driving games these days is what I've found. So they do a bit of a test run a lot of the time, and they will work out your style of driving.
Forza
then-
does it a lot.
Exactly what I was thinking. And I've found that always car games have been probably the forefront of being able to make difficulty as best as they can. And it just seems
Yeah,
very
so I think
intuitive.
they do that because they do, you know, the recording of you doing races, right? So like you can always go on the lap with the ghost car, which is just you for the previous race or your
Yeah.
record.
Yep.
So
So
I
they've
think
managed to
because they
work out
have
how
that-
to mimic a ghost car into their AI somehow and have them drive specifically like the anti-you. And I think that's really clever. So I don't think I've ever had a car game where I've been like, wow, this is fucking way out. Like, I don't think.
There are some, like, the further back you go, you're definitely going to find
yeah.
stuff. Like Need for Speed Carbon is an example of a game I remember loving when it first came out. Playing it back not that long ago, I was like, holy shit, this game is awful. Their AI isn't designed to play around you. It literally just follows a set path, or, you know, multiple set paths.
Yeah, right.
And you can't even knock it too far off the rails. I tried to literally T-bone a car and it just like stopped me.
So it's just like, no, I'm
Need
going
for
this
Speed's
way.
always been hilarious with those physics as well. You'll be like blasting along and you nick like a tiny fucking tree and your car's like,
Yeah.
you're like, wait, what? It doesn't even like lift or it is bunk. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, reverse and keep going. But like, I do know what you mean. I have seen that with car games, especially like the more racetrack ones. I'm sure it happens in the street race ones, but I've seen it in the racetrack ones a lot more, where you go to do something and the other cars just seems like you can't nudge it, you can't get past it too sneakily because it's got its path, and it'll just barrel past you and knock you off course.
Yep.
When it barely touches you, and you're like, what? And it's because the game is protecting that car on its path, and nothing will obstruct it. You just have to work out, okay, so they've left you an opening at this corner or whatever.
You were halfway through a thought before I dragged us out into car racing, Jace. You were saying Half-Life, and then there was another example.
Max Payne, the original Max Payne,
Okay, yeah.
did a similar thing, except if memory serves, based on how you played, it would actually scale up the difficulty based on how you played in like the first level or something like that. I can't remember the specifics on how it worked, but it basically would scale the difficulty around you, even though you have the option to pick different difficulties. Now that I think about it as well, there is one fucked up difficulty they had in it. It was called New York Minute, and it was like it was basically its own challenge run. So not only was it, I think it was the hardest difficulty, but they also put a timer on it. So you've got to finish
rough.
each level in a set time.
Yeah, that's
That game was not fucking easy.
no.
And so yeah, that was definitely
That was
impressive.
all the dogs.
They stepped on their food tub thing and it flipped.
Nice. What was the game I was just thinking of? Fuck. Oh, yeah.
probably
So
some weak
actually,
shit.
it wasn't actually. You kind of skipped over the D&D element just now. I don't know why, because you could just say that can be changed on the fly by the DM and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but that comes
there's
down to
a
like
little
how
bit, yeah.
rule Nazi you can be about it, right? So like if you've got the players who are sitting there with their fucking own copy of a rule book saying you have to adhere to it, then difficulty scaling gets a little hard. You can't help or hinder your players at all.
Yeah.
But also,
it
if you're
gets
playing a little bit
hard.
more on the fly, like I know, I've only done one game and you've done many. You know, you might nudge people and help them out a little bit. They might do a little bit more damage because of you might be a little generous with an advantage or lesser generous or whatever. But I do think D&D is maybe the best example because you do have to do that work on the fly, which is really interesting because you'll have players, for example, pick up a needle whip
I have no idea what you're talking about.
that was meant to drain blood out of a dragon and utilize it as a weapon. And then you have to work out how much damage that caused in a way that feels fun for the players and feels like you have enabled their imagination and ideas,
Yeah.
but not so much that you've made them a god as well. Like you've got to find ways to make that fun
so
as a game. I think D&D difficulty is actually
meter.
really interesting to talk about, as much as it's like, okay, it just comes down to the DM and how god they want to be. But I think there's a bit more to it because there's rules Nazis, there's homebrew, do whatever you want, but also, yeah, like when it comes to like improvised shit, I want to put my foot on here, kick off here, do this. Like,
yeah, I worked out very early on that anyone who I could sort of identify as going to be like a rules lawyer on like the whole, oh, I already know that this is a wolf and the wolf has this much HP, and I'm like, it's a homebrew wolf, bitch. Immediately. So immediately they just stopped asking because I was like, every time they would be like, well, this is such a buzz from the page 52 of the monster. I'm like, dude, it isn't. You're wrong. It's not that creature. I looked it up on a homebrew. I made it up myself. It doesn't have to be. So I'm like, no, fuck you. So
but that
rules
makes
lawyers
for a better
straight away
game
get
as
buried on it.
well. And that comes back to the tabletop thing of this is not like other games. Like tabletop is it's on the fly as much as it's planned, and you spend hours planning it, and then people fuck off to do a prank with the water. But it's just, yeah, I think the difficulty in D&D is one of the more interesting ones. As hard as it is to give examples of in the show in half an hour.
Yeah, it is very hard to balance. And even though all of the creatures come with a CR, like a challenge rating, they don't often balance correctly depending on the party. So, like, if you've got a really diverse party that just hits hard, you guys could hit him like so hard that he's dead before he even gets a hit in, and it should be totally different. Like, if this thing's a CR4 and you have 4 players at level 1, they should be able to verse this thing, and it should be normal difficulty. So there should be a bit of a challenge there. You should get through a few rounds of combat at least before anything major happens. This thing could be dead in a whole like one round, but it could be vice versa as well. If you guys are all, glass cannons, and it just hits you hard, and it just is the luck of the roll, then damn, like it could be all over as well. So
thank God your table's covered in fucking morons now.
I know, right? Yeah. I don't have anything to worry about. I don't even have to worry about content. Like, shit.
But like the metagaming element, that's super unique to D&D because like so one of the first games I played in wasn't yours, and the guy had a slime monster come out, a jelly, I think they are in D&D, sorry. But it's like I know enough about fantasy from reading books and anime and sci-fi and all this shit that I'm like, it's a jelly. It's going to be immune to this and that and this and that. And he's like, yeah. And I started like doing it because I wasn't in that sort of D&D mindset yet, that I'm role playing and that I'm a character, not myself trying to beat the game. That's not what tabletop, especially D&D, is about. It's about having fun playing and experiencing stuff. But like the jelly element, I was instantly like, it's going to be this and this and this. And the guy's like, cool, I mean, you can metagame it, like, but it's not fun. I was like,
Just
I
got all
hadn't
butthurt
really
about
drilled
it.
into my head just yet. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
immediately
he's
would have
doing
had it turn from a jelly to a shape-shifting like something else entirely. Just be like, well, now you're fucked because it wasn't that at all.
Yeah.
It's now a concrete.
Yeah. Immune
It's
to
a
all.
cup full of concrete. But I mean, yeah, in terms of difficulty, you should just pull Justin's if you're into anime and you want to fuck with difficulty and
Yeah,
watch
just
one
pull
episode in
Justin's.
Japanese and one episode in English and then one episode with no subtitles just to see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
German subtitles on a Japanese show speaking in Spanish. That's the only way to really watch it if you're a
that's
hardcore.
pain.
That's
Pain.
some like a JoJo's experience right there.
That's any normal episode of JoJo in English. Like,
The two that I wanted to talk about difficulty wise that I thought were kind of diverse. First one being Halos. I think that's pretty obvious. You can up the difficulty, and that generally gives them they get smarter, which I thought was kind of clever for their time. Even the very first Halo, but mainly Halo 2 onwards, they just get much smarter. They take cover when they need to. The big bosses are really aggressive and all the rest of it. But then the skulls come into play as well, and that's just like adding that challenge on top of the difficulty as well.
It's
and
basically
like
in-game
next
challenge
level.
runs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then you get like those streamers out there, the guys offering 20 grand to a guy that can do Halo 2 Legendary with all of the skulls on except for one. And one of the skulls that he doesn't want on, the only one he doesn't want on is that you can go invisible. So you can't go invisible. They are invisible. They can one-shot you. They're throwing grenades all the time. Like, it's just insane. Like, there's no way.
running around
Like,
swinging swords. It's like,
The guy that does this
guys.
is going to be like known for forever because it will take your lifetime to get there. But it's just another element to it that you can just add that extra challenge to an already challenging experience. So I thought that the AI were very clever in that game. So I thought I'd bring those up. So anyone who hasn't
No,
experienced
that's cool.
any
Halo is a
Halo,
good example. That's an interesting.
I haven't
difficulty.
enjoyed playing Halos all that much, but I did enjoy seeing how they scaled up, and I thought it was.
I completely
impressive.
agree. I still haven't finished the series. I got the
Yeah.
Master Chief collection, and I have done like two. I haven't even finished the original Halo yet. So
Yeah. They're fun, and I'm just not a massive fan of that type of. I don't know why. Something about it just didn't vibe for me from the
So
beginning.
Jace is an apprentice chief.
So.
Yes.
Jesus.
Speaking of difficulty curves, yeah.
The other one was the Shadow of War, and
Yes.
whatever the first one was.
Shadow of Mordor, was it?
Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War, something like that. Both of those games were awesome.
The Shadow of games. Yeah, they were fucking badass.
So you basically are trying to take over the lands, and you're recruiting orcs to help you in your fight. Where the element of difficulty comes into play, though, it comes in when you get beaten by a boss, and then they learn from your tactics, leveling themselves up in the process, making them harder to kill, but they get smarter. So if you go back in there with exactly the same tactics, which you probably will try to do because that's the way you play a game, they already know it. So then they're smarter. They're like, know you're going to try and shoot them from range, and they are sending minions in from the sides, or they're taking cover until you have to get closer, and then they'll ambush you, things like that. So they get real smart real quick, and the more times they kill you, the smarter they get and the stronger they get. So you can actually level up one of their guys by dying a lot of times, and they just get bigger and bigger. And then you can do the same thing with your guys' team by having them win against the other guys. So you bring those guys to the fight, they get the killing blow, they actually level themselves up. So then you've got this army of leveled up dudes around you, and it's just a really cool way to scale up a game. So
Yeah,
they're the two most diverse things I can think of as far as
they're both
difficulty
brilliant
goes.
examples.
So yeah.
No, I like that. That beats the shit out of just upping the health on something.
Oh,
Yeah.
fucking
The only other
ridiculous.
thing I can think of that hard is keeping to half an hour for a show.
Nah, fuck that.
Nah.
Get fucked.
Never.